Good morning, Trump's family. Have a nice weekend, everyone, and God bless you. Thank you for always watching and subscribing to the channel. Alright, let's get into the news. And if I told you we'd be continuing to keep an eye on Kevin McCarthy, and to see if he was going to be showing any of his rhino tendencies again, Trump did pressured the Freedom Caucus to vote for Kevin McCarthy. There hasn't been a better solution. And Kevin McCarthy, I told you guys that from the very beginning, I don't agree with his pick, because I still think that he has too many of his rhino tendencies that would be showing, and again, he showed it yesterday during this press conference, when asked about Ashley Babbitt. That's right. Asked of the gunning down to Vasily Bad that was justified, and he says that the cop was doing his job. Oh, really? An unarmed woman who posed no threat deserved to be shot in the neck. Kevin. This is pure swamp trash. That's what that is. And I told you we're going to be fair, we're going to point out when he was doing well, and we're going to highlight when he's doing something that's absolutely disgusting. And this is one of those times. So let's go and dive into what we have here. And he says this, he says, I think the police officer did his job. Kevin McCarthy defends the cold-blooded killer. Mike Bird throws Ashley Babbitt under the bus. Does not surprise me when we were just starting to really like Kevin, really didn't like Kevin. Anyway, he defends defense to cold-blooded killer who shot Ashley Babbitt dead in the U.S. Capitol. During the question on Thursday, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy was asked if he thought Ashley Babbitt was murdered by Officer Mike Bird. McCarthy answered the report. I think the officer was doing his job. He said apparently, shooting 100-pound female Trump supporter in a neck without warning is doing his job. The reporter asked, do you think Ashley Babbitt was murdered? Or do you think a police officer who shot her was doing his job? And that's what Kevin McCarthy responded with? I think the police officer was doing his job, really. President Trump did respond to this, which is good that he should respond to this, but since he did back this guy, he says I totally disagree with the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, and that the police officer Thug, who has had a very checkered past to begin with, was not just doing his job when he shot and killed a great patriot Ashley Babbitt at point-blank range, despite trying to keep him anonymous, shielded and protected. The misfit proudly showed up on NBC Nightly News, bragging about the killing. He was not a hero, but a coward who wanted to show how tough he was. Ashley Babbitt was murdered. I'm glad that Trump right recognizes that. As the Gateway pundit previously reported right on January 6, 2021, U.S. veteran is the bad that was shot in Coppola by the Capitol Police, Lieutenant Michael Bird or Mike Bird in the U.S. Capitol. So there you have it. Our boy, Kevin McCarthy, supporting the student. I'll go ahead and release the whole tape, we can see all the angles, then we can see all the angles of what took place. And we know Ashley Babbitt was not a threat. And then even after he was shot, Capitol Police, there was a doctor who was trying to help Ashley Babbitt in and work on her, and they took him away and let her bleed out there on the floor inside the Capitol building. It was an absolute setup from the very beginning, the onset to lure Trump supporters into the Capitol, and then to label them domestic terrorists. That is the would plan from the deep state, from the people within the intel agencies, that people within Capitol Hill would people within Trump's own administration, they were all working together to ensure that they could out Trump completely and that there would be no more objections to the election in Congress. And some significant news: Democrats immediately object when House Republican proposes members recite the Pledge of Allegiance before each committee meeting. Fireworks erupted at the House Judiciary Committee meeting when Representative Matt Gaetz proposed an amendment to the committee's rules that will require each member to recite the Pledge of Allegiance before conducting committee business. Quote, on the Judiciary Committee, we are charged with vindicating the constitutional rights of our fellow Americans. And our Pledge of Allegiance is a national symbol of pride and unity, he explained. He continues, quote, my amendment gives the committee the opportunity to begin each of its meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance. However, Representative Jerry Nadler, a top Democrat on the committee, immediately opposed it. Quote, I would oppose it simply on the grounds that as members now we pledge allegiance every day on the floor, and I don't know why we should pledge allegiance twice in the same day to show how patriotic we are. I don't think this is the most important amendment in the world. Representative Mike Johnson swiftly demonstrated why Nat Her's objection was perhaps not justified. Quote, I have not seen Mr. Nadler on the floor when the pledge is done. And most members are not present there, Johnson said. So it's not accurate to say that we do the pledge every day or participate in the pledge every day. It may be offered, but you're not here for it. From there, the civility of the meeting quickly went downhill. At one point, Representative Jeff Van Drew took the opportunity to point out what he believed was the absurdity of the debate. Quote, "I'm almost speechless." He said, "I know it's a real backbreaker. We can go that little extra mile, stand up, put our hand on our chest, say what we believe, and reaffirm this America that we love. Come on. This can't be real. I can't believe we are having this debate." Ultimately, the amendment was blocked by a vote of 24 to 13. National Archives claims it was not allowed to announce Biden's classified document discovery. Comer reveals House Oversight Committee Chairman Representative James Comer. So the National Archives had claimed it was not permitted to publicly discuss the discovery of classified materials at various locations once occupied by Joe Biden, prompting the lawmaker to suggest that the administration had been intervened. Comer met with National Archives General Counsel Gary Stern on Tuesday. Prior to the meeting, Comer says he was handed a letter from the Department of Justice indicating that Stern was barred from commenting on the matter, quote, right before the National Archives came in. They handed us a letter from the Department of Justice informing them and us that the General Counsel for the National Archives was not allowed to say anything about the Biden documents. But we went ahead and we had about a 3+ hour transcribed interview with the General Counsel. And what we learned was that there is a double standard here with how Donald Trump was related versus Joe Biden. Comer said. He continues, quote, "The General Counsel said that he did do press releases, but he was ordered and they could not be published." Comer stated there are only two people that could have given him those orders, and that is either the Department of Justice with Merrick Garland. The archives have previously publicly commented on matters pertaining to the investigation of Trump over his alleged mishandling of classified documents, a disparity. Comer noted. Quote, "What we learned was that there's a double standard here with how Donald Trump was treated versus Joe Biden," he concluded. Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders will deliver a Republican response to Biden's State of the Union address. Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders was only sworn into office in January and will deliver the Republican response to Joe Biden's State of the Union address next Tuesday. Quote, "I am grateful for this opportunity to address the nation and contrast the GOP's optimistic vision for the future against the failures of Biden and the Democrats." She said, quote, "We are ready to begin a new chapter in the story of America, to be written by a new generation of leaders ready to defend our freedom against the radical left and expand access to quality education, jobs and opportunity for all." The response to the State of the Union address has often been delivered as a rebuttal speech from the opposition party following the president's address. Sanders was inaugurated in Arkansas as the 47th governor on January 10, and is the first woman to serve as the state's governor. She's also the youngest governor in the country. Quote, "Americans are still struggling from inflation, a border crisis, record crime, and a failing school system. As House Republicans work to fix these problems in Congress with our commitment to America." Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders is addressing them head-on with her conservative agenda outside of Washington, and McCarthy said in a statement before becoming governor. Sanders also served as the White House press secretary for President Donald Trump from 2017 to 2019. She was the third woman and the first mother to hold that position. Representative Thomas Massie, he vows to strip Ukraine funding from must-pass spending bills. The Kentucky lawmaker who represents the non-interventionist wing of the Republican Party has long opposed aid and entangling the United States, and what is now increasingly becoming a protracted conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Massie noted that Americans have increasingly soured on America's seemingly endless support for Ukraine's conflict with Russia, and how congressional leadership moved to attach aid to must-pass spending bills such as a continuing resolution or omnibus spending bill. He described this move as a purée and despicable for our republic. America has so far provided more than $113 billion in military and economic aid to Ukraine. Massie said that if you oppose the CR or the omnibus because of the inclusion of Ukraine aid, you can be blamed, quote, for shutting down the government. Quote, "I don't see that happening again with me and Chip Roy and Ralph Norman on Rules Committee. I don't think you got to hide these things. And these votes I think we can all ask for as a separate vote on Ukraine." He said. Massie said that Biden will likely receive no more blank checks for Ukraine in this congressional term, and that congressional support for Ukraine may erode with more isolated recorded votes on aid for Ukraine. Quote, I don't think he's going to get any more blank checks in this Congress. And if he does, there will be a recorded vote. And if we ended up taking 3 or 4 recorded votes on Ukraine, I think each time you'll see support for the US involvement there diminish, he said. Massey also suggested that separate recorded votes on Ukraine could expose that there's, quote, nobody on the anti-war left anymore. Hunter Biden pressures Delaware AG to investigate computer store owner. Hunter Biden is exploiting his family's ties to the Attorney General of Delaware to pressure office to investigate the computer shop owner who first brought his abandoned laptop to light. In a letter this week, Biden attorney Blow will urge Delaware Attorney General Kathy Jennings to investigate John Paul MacIsaac, the owner of the Delaware computer repair shop who turned Biden's laptop over to the FBI in 2019. Lobel claims Isaac's handling of laptop quotes resulted in the exposure, exploitation, and manipulation of Mr. Biden's private and personal information, and he said it warrants a full investigation and may merit persecution. Quote, it is not common thing for a private person and its counsel to seek someone else to bring investigated but someone else being investigated, but the actions and motives here require it. Law wrote to Jennings Biden's aggressive new legal strategy could pose conflict of interest issues should the Attorney General take up the probe. Jennings had served under Biden's late son Beau Biden, when he was Delaware Attorney General, and she touted an endorsement from Joe Biden during her 2018 campaign. Hunter Biden is sending out the letters as his allies in Washington, D.C. have ramped up their fight against Republican investigations of his business dealings. Biden sent a similar letter to the Justice Department requesting an investigation into MacIsaac. The Justice Department is investigating Hunter Biden over his taxes, foreign business dealings, and other issues. Hunter Biden hired MacIsaac to fix his computer in April of 2019. After Biden failed to retrieve the device, Isaac gave it to the FBI. He later gave a copy of the computer hard drive to several Trump allies who in turn have shared documents with journalists. While Biden takes an aggressive tone and letter, he all but admits that he left his computer for repairs at Isaac's shop. Biden had not previously confirmed that the laptop is his or that he left it at Isaac's store. He has instead suggested that someone, including the Russians, may have stolen or hacked his computer. Thank you very much. WWG1WGA. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button to watch the next episode.